Oh, hi guys, welcome to episode 1 of the Welsh Beast Show, my new podcast. And joining me today is the only person that agreed to come on out of 50 applicants or 50 requests, the co-host of Wrexham's most popular podcast, Wrexham AFC's most popular podcast, Feel Us in Devotion. It's Tim Edwards. Tim, thank you very much for coming on.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. It's a joy and a privilege, mate. It's been long overdue.
Yes.
I think we've discussed it for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, doing something together. We see each other out and about, and finally, I can see how excited you are in your face. The thrill and excitement is clear for everyone to see.
I am. Yeah, I know you do yourself down for the shits and giggles of it, but I've said time and time again, like we're fortunate in that we've got a lot of good podcasts, like following the football club and putting good output. And I just, when I kept stumbling across your stuff, I was just pissing myself laughing. I thought it was freaking great. It's just like, I don't know. Some people can be too edgy for the sake of being edgy. Some people can be too informative and can go down this sort of stats route. And you're just you, which is great. And if you're yourself, then it shines through, doesn't it? If you pretend to be something you're not, people will see through it. So
it's the stuff that I just see and I react to, and I keep it here. I can sit on a bus and see something, and I wish I could just stand up and scream about it, but I can't. Like, come and do it in the videos. But I can see something happen, and I keep that information in me.
What would you do? So if you're on a bus, like, you've just been to the turf, you've had the last pint, you're getting the last bus home, right? And there's an old dear on the bus, a couple of kids asking about what's popped into your head to make you stand up and scream, and what would you scream?
Well, I think maybe rather well, I don't know. It depends. Anything, people's behaviour, the bus being late, someone being silly. But in terms of football, I mean, a coach trip away. We experienced one, didn't we? A corker, an absolute corker of a trip. That will go down in history. I think it's etched in my brain. I mean, I've only just recovered from it, I think. But what a day out that was.
I can still hear what you said in my head. It's ingrained right there. We were like, yeah. Why we entered another county we didn't need to go through? It was ridiculous.
But Wrexham have a few crazy drivers. I found Pat's coach is brilliant company, but they've got some they take us on some weird adventures. I found, and there's some weird drivers who can interesting, shall we say?
Yeah.
Let's be back now for the next away game.
Well, I mean, next away game, who have we got? We've got Burton, haven't we? So. Yeah, home game on Tuesday, Barnsley, then Burton. So I think I've kind of like, bizarrely, I'm making an overnighter of it. Would you believe? I'm going to Stoke on the Friday to watch a band, and then Burton's only about 35 minutes from there. So I'm crashing it at mates, and then going on to Burton. And bizarrely, it's one of those stadiums I've never been to. I've never been to Burton, even though we played him plenty of times over the years. I've just never been. And I said this to my mate the other day. I'm always kind of not just curious about going to a ground I've never been, but we don't play many teams that play in yellow. It's a rarity, isn't it? Norwich, never played them in my lifetime. So I'm always in like a yellow stadium. It'd be like a sort of like an Etsy version of Borussia Dortmund or something.
No, we'll go that far. But is that where Flur Robinson's from? Is that Ben Robinson? Does he own Burton? Is that?
Well, yeah. I mean, Fleur's back there as the chief exec now, and her dad was the owner, but I'm pretty sure he stood down, and I think it's still very much a family affair. I'm pretty sure that Fleur's brothers may be operating things now because the dad he's quite an old guy. He's done what he needed to do in terms of building the stature of that club up, and so it's informally known as the Flur Robinson Derby from what I've been hearing from about 3 people.
But she came with a good reputation, I think, and did a decent job to begin with. It's what was needed at the start. I've heard some negative comments about it, some negative stories, but I think this journey, the way how it's unfolded, I think she got us off to a good start.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there is no smoke without fire, and you try not to listen to too much hot air and so on. But when you hear repeated things that aren't really favourable about her, then it's quite difficult because she never really put her head above the parapet. She was just very much in the shadows, maybe doing the ugly stuff, but maybe doing more stuff than perhaps she should have done. I mean, at that time, it was still very much a skeleton staff. We've got staff for everything now, whereas then she was probably doing a lot more than maybe she should have done. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure at the heart of it, she's probably a decent human being. But from the stories we heard, maybe she wasn't necessarily a people person. Maybe she'll say she didn't have to be a people person. That's not part of her role. And obviously, we saw a little bit of her in the documentary, kind of like a fleeting moment with the sort of the father and son, father and daughter thing going on. But yeah, I'm almost certain. I said this at the time. I'm almost certain she would have done some good things for the club. But I honestly believe that we'll never truly know what those were, because nobody's really put it up on a piece of paper and said Flur's done this, and this, and you should be grateful. It was just a case of, we've heard Flur's done this, and this. Good riddance, and that's kind of like the line that a lot of fans have seen, because we've not been allowed to see another version of it. People like a degree of transparency. And when there is none, then that's when you kind of make up your own decision.
I suppose it's difficult coming in from the outside with a job to sort of organise a football club with no sentiment to the community. Obviously, you have to deal with people in the respectful way, in the correct way, but their job was to sort of manage this transition and this takeover with massive exposure, with massive responsibility, and to not be sentimental to the club and those who've been maybe long-standing servants of the club. You hear a lot of these stories, not saying it was due to her, but people who've been at the club a long time, been disrespected. They've now left the club, they've lost their positions and their responsibilities. And it's not the same type of club it was when they took over.
No, yeah, it is fair to say. And it's like anything, like none of us will ever truly know what good things she's done. And I'm sure there was plenty, but she's not the sort of person who will come out and say I was great at doing this, because that's just, a very egotistical way of doing your job. And she's very thick-skinned, but I'm sure some of the criticism probably hurt her. I mean, the cynic in us says she came to Wrexham as a stepping stone to take that job at her club. And if it was that, then fine. I mean, she's still a trailblazer in the game. Your women holding sort of CEO positions are few and far between. So you have to take your hat off to her and say that she's done a job, and not just through favours through family. Oh, you're my daughter, you must have this. I think she's more than capable of having these positions. I just think there was a point where she probably didn't do herself any favours, because everything was out in the open, whether it was through the documentary or not. Rob and Ryan were seen everywhere. They were seen in the turf. They were seen at food banks. They were doing things. And it was the same with the players. They're out there doing things. And when it's a less glamorous role, if you like, of Fleur, like Michael Williamson's come in, we haven't really heard much yet. He's busy. His pet project is going to be the cop, amongst other things. So it's not exactly a sexy role. And I think there's a certain thing where it's difficult to put across to fans that we need to do this, and this, when you're quite rightly going to be there to be shot at. You are the focal point to be shot at, because you need to be pulling the strings behind the scenes of the things that really matter. It kind of cascades down from the CEO. So it's a tough job. I've no doubt she did a lot right, but as I said, I've no doubt she probably got a lot wrong. And in hindsight, she'd probably be the first to admit that eventually.
Yeah, she's probably recommended someone who's experienced in football, as you say, maybe looking for that next opportunity, but owners with no experience of football, like Peter Moore came in and Harvey, but they have to get a team together who knew football, who could advise them, who could run a club. And maybe the recommendation of Fleur was perhaps too good to turn down, and it perhaps was a good choice at the beginning. Why not?
Yeah, and exactly, it came with a bit of a not anticlimactical blaze of glory. It was a case of, yeah, we've got Fleur, it's amazing. But like, as I think it was Ryan that said in the documentary, it's great that we got it, but she didn't want to take part in the documentary, and that's fine. That's people's prerogatives. They either want to get involved or they don't. They want to be public facing as part of a documentary. It's there for all to see at any time from now until eternity. So you can understand people don't have to give their reasons if they don't want to be involved in it. They don't have to be involved in it. So yeah. And it's weird, isn't it? Because when we all appointed Sean Harvey, and there is still an undercurrent of uncomfortableness about that appointment because his reputation preceded him for varying levels. You know, you have to ask fans of other clubs he was at to understand the reluctance to have him in post. But he's kind of kept his head down and gone about what he needs to get on with, really. And he's become a bit more public facing. He's become a little. He's almost like he's been eased in, like he's been like undergone this transformation of like villain in football circles to he's a hard-nosed Yorkshireman. He'll tell it how it is, but he's actually doing all right for us. And he's trusted by the owners. He's trusted by Humphrey, and they're good people. And you just have to say, okay, if you think he's doing a good job and he's not going to make the same mistakes he did at other clubs, then you have to kind of go, okay, you know, majority rules. We're putting our faith in you just as much as you're putting your faith in those people you've got on the ground. So it's what we've got to do.
But it's worked so far, hasn't it? This takeover. How has it worked? There was always going to be a risk if it could all go the other way.
Oh, yeah, and I said this to somebody the other day. So this students will be writing about Wrexham for like master's degrees and theses and years to come, because it is a good example of how overseas ownership in football can work if you do it in the right way. And there's plenty of things they've got wrong, but it's probably been counterbalanced by the fact that they've got so much right, and it's helped with double promotion. It's helped when you've got players who are now household names to a certain extent via the documentary. So all those little facets have kind of like helped it really bookend the fact that this is a successful takeover. It's been done with a degree of transparency. When they came in, they said, we don't know nothing about football, but we'll get people in who do. And then we'll learn as we go along, and we'll make mistakes as we go along, and we'll get things right, we'll get things wrong. So I think when you say that from the outset and you have that honesty, then you get a degree of credit in the bank from the fans who will go, fine, you've told us from the start that you know everything about it. So we'll give you time, we'll give you patience. And you know, as you and I both know, as dying of all Wrexham fans, you can't please everybody. You know, Wrexham could win 10 on a bounce and score 10 goals in each game, and it still won't be enough for some people. You know, people have got a very skewed view of how football should be played and so on. So it's worked because of that transparency. It's worked because of the investment. It's worked because of the sponsors they've got on board. People saying that we're pissing money left, right, and centre, and we've spent this and we've broken records. Not really. If you dial it back, we spent a little bit of money on X amount of players, but we haven't gone out there and done a Birmingham and gone, here's 14 million, we'll have him off you. You know, excuse me. So I think we've gone about it in a measured fashion. How much longer we'll go about it in a measured fashion is a very different thing, because I think if we were to go up this season, you've got to cut your cloth accordingly, and we're in a very different pool at this point. I think there is a certain comparison to be had between League One and top end National League. You know, we've seen that several other players who are in the first team now were starting in the National League, so you can't tell me that, you know, there's a huge discrepancy. But I think Championship, we've seen it when we've played Championship teams, and there is a chasm of difference in terms of the skill levels and the skill sets required. So it'll be very, very interesting rest of the season, mate. That's for sure.
Is promotion a must? Is it now? Is this the time? Not well, because how they've managed, they've survived well, more than well in this league. They're not out their depth, clearly. That comes up, they're right in the mix straight away, no mucking around. You know,
we're safe now. How many points? How many points is it for safety?
Well, they're guaranteed the playoffs. You know, they're guaranteed the playoffs. Yeah, is that enough? Can you be grateful with that, or is it, look, it has to be another promotion? This is the chance now.
No, I don't think nothing's ever guaranteed. The wheels could fall off massively, but you don't see that because Wrexham, and I've said it all along, I've said it from the start, Wrexham are hard to beat. They're a hard team to beat. If you bookend the Birmingham defeat as a one-off to a certain extent, where we still had chances in that game, but nobody's ever come along and gone, here you go, here's your 5-0 since that Stockport game, like last season. So we're always in games, even away, where supposedly we're like the worst team since sliced bread on the road, if you believe everybody and anyone. But we're in games. We know that if we ride our luck like we did on Tuesday and we still win the home matches, you're always going to be in with a shout. So is promotion a must? No, because nobody ever thought we would be sitting in second at this point of the season going into a busy festive period. However, the longer this season goes on and the longer we carry on going, oh, they're actually kicking it with the bigwigs in this division, then it resets your focus. It goes from that classic consolidation word to going, we've got an all right chance here, And whilst top 2 would be ideal, because we all know Wrexham and playoffs don't mix.
Of course, yeah.
Nobody can grumble at anything from 12th place upwards. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way, because we've got a very good team, we've got a very good management team. But I can't see any reason why why would you get to over a quarter of the season, be second and go, you might as well down tools now, lads. We're not interested in the championship this season. Try telling the players in Parky that. No chance. Why not be a history-making team who can do 3 in a row from the National League and the Championship? And then I suppose the downside to it, if there is such a downside, is people will say, well, we're not ready for the Championship. That may be the case, but that's not for us to decide. It's for you and I to enjoy the ride. It's for the powers that be, the people that we just mentioned. It's for them to work that bit out. It's for them to go, we need a permanent training ground. They can't be living this nomadic existence. It's for them to push this cop for it. It's for them to go away and go, we've got 12 players that we want because this amount of players are leaving. We need these players. What's our budget? I can guarantee they'll already be looking at that. They have to be. They have to be. They'll have one eye on it already.
And what is the position now with the cop?
Good question. It's it has to be in, doesn't it? Before...
Really is rumbling on, isn't it? I thought it'd be well underway by now.
Yeah, I think it's now set in stone where it has to be done by the season after next, before the under, I can't remember if it's the under 18 or under 21 European Championship. So there is a clock on it now, and the clock is ticking. And I dare say we'll probably start seeing moves. I think that they've gone away and said, look, the architects have given us this, but we want a second opinion, and they've gone away and had a different architect look at it, and they've come back with a different idea. They want to start looking at filling in the corners as well. They want to start looking at how they can expand the Wrexham lager. They're looking at how they can basically maximize the footprint that the club is on, and the rumours gathering pace that would see the flats be demolished, so they get all that land back that was essentially stripped away from them. So as much as I feel a bit sorry for the students there, it would be good to have that land back, because that's always a sore point for anybody who remembers those the Moss and Roberts days and how that land was separated from the club and so on. So I don't want to move. Somebody was asking me this the other day. Oh, if your trajectory keeps going up, surely you'd have to change grounds. And like, well, do we? Do we really? Is there enough of a footprint there to expand it and keep it in a place which is special? Because I had this conversation time and time again, like Cardiff fans, some of my mates Cardiff fans, from the city centre to the stadium, it's a good half an hour walk, half an hour, 40 minutes. You look at places that are on the outskirts, Stoke City, coldest ground in the world, even in the summer, nowhere near the city centre. Similar to York's new stadium, Beetham Crescent was great. Slap bang in the heart of the city. You take it out, it's not a hardship to travel to, but it definitely strips away some of the magic. You can go to the ground now, you can go to the turf, you can go to the Mice Gwyn, you can go to the fan zone, you can go to the railway pub, you can go to wherever, but you can sense something. You can sense that build-up. You can't really get the same build-up from half an hour, 45 minutes away. It just doesn't quite work the same for me. So I hope they'll do whatever they can to keep the racecourse where it is, because yeah, I just don't want it. It's just special, isn't it? Everybody says that about their football grounds, but I think we're lucky where we've got it because it is the gateway to the town, and it's something to be rightly proud of.
Well, there's no justification yet for moving. I'm sure they can expand on what they have and for what we need. Because I was going to go back to the empty seats in the 10th stand. Now, is that because of the weather, the pricing, the fact I'm seeing different opinions? Is that a warning sign that the demand isn't always going to be there all the time? You've got to be careful of how much you expect people to buy and what you offer people. People are not going to buy everything you offer, and the demand is not always going to be there.
Potentially. I mean, I wasn't there on Tuesday. I had a sort of prior engagement, so I couldn't go. But obviously, I was there for the Exeter game. There was the big gaps there, wasn't there?
Very similar.
Yeah, I mean, there was the snow for the Exeter game, and somebody pointed out to me, and it might have affected it on Tuesday. That maybe that had an effect on the transport network. Not everybody comes in cars, and not everybody comes from Wrexham. Yeah. People come from miles around. I know people that couldn't make the Exeter game who were coming from Leeds, and they had to turn around because they couldn't get over the sort of Pennines because of how bad the snow was. So there's a combination of things. It's easy for us to sit here and go, well, you shouldn't be charging 10 quid for the fan zone, which they shouldn't be. Personally speaking, I think that's a grab. I think Humphrey admitted to it to a point at one of the live shows we did where he said he basically admitted that they shouldn't have called it a fan zone. It's essentially a very different thing entirely. It's not really a fan zone. You're basically charging people extra for the privilege of having
like VIP access, isn't it? Something like that,
Yeah, essentially what it is. So it's almost like a corporate thing, I guess, to a point.
Yes,
so, either have it, pay it, maybe charge a £5, or at worst, at best, I should say, is you charge nothing because.
Yeah, do they need to charge for it?
No, they don't.
Like you said, maybe gone a bit too greedy. It's like
no, but if they'd have come out and said, "Oh, this thing doesn't come for free," fine, tell us that, and we've got to charge this. But I mean, they're charging vendors to come in there to sell food and other things. Great, that's great. That's good because you get a bit more selection. But then what else do you get for your tenner? You get to play a bit of table football. Your kids get to meet some of the injured players. And don't get me wrong, I went in there for when they did the free one maybe about a month ago, and it was great. It was really good. I'm not going to lie, but when somebody said to me, "Would you have paid a tenner for it?" I was like, "No." And that's not being a skinflint. I just thought there's certain things that are attached to grounds that shouldn't be a chargeable experience. You're already charging for the experience of going into a ground and paying your beer at the New Year bars, at the e-bars, or paying for your food, or going to the club shop. You're already doing all these things. So to stick another 10 quid on top of that, when we all know times are fairly lean anyway, is a decision. It's one of the few business decisions that I think they've probably not got right.
Yeah, but again, it's a case of trying to maximise the exposure and the interest, and it's in terms of recouping some investment. Do you talk about the money they've spent or the losses? What are the losses at the moment? Do you know how much the club is losing at the moment? Is that coming back?
No, I couldn't put a figure on it, and we'll know more. Well, to a certain extent, when the next lot of finances are put out into the world, but I can't imagine it's probably not as much as people would assume from the outside looking in. So it's a difficult one to gauge, and that's not me burying my head in the sand. You wonder that your club isn't sort of hemorrhaging money, so there has to be a happy medium, and I get why they charge X, Y, and Z for kits, we don't like it, but if you don't have to buy it, if you don't like it, it's fine. I suppose it's the same thing for the fan zone, and we're seeing that. And in fairness to the club, they've kept season tickets. I think they've kept season ticket prices frozen for maybe 2 or 3 years now. If we go to the Championship, I'll be amazed if they freeze it again, because they would be well within their rights to go, we have to charge a bit extra now because we're going to be playing, I don't know, Everton, Everton away next year. So yeah, so there is value.
They always survive Everton, are they? They always survive Everton.
It's going to run out. The luck's going to run out this year. I'm telling you. I don't wish ill on them, but like this is the thing, and like you might. It's a question that various people have said. So, what's more important, the destination or the journey? You know, and I think it's a very good question. Never thought of it like that, but I would not want to be one of those yo-yo clubs. I wouldn't want to be a perennial struggler in the top flight. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, where is the line of where is you find true happiness? And is the championship our ceiling? Do we want to go above it for a little while and come back? Yes, it's all a little bit dramatic at this point, I think.
But I suppose being stable in League One for 10 years, you wouldn't say no to that. Just to become stale. I think the documentary needs a bit more action, doesn't it?
5 years. I'll take 5.
Yeah.
You know, 10 years of playing Exeter and Stockport would get tiresome. So 5 years maybe, but you know, we can't afford to be too greedy, can we? Let's be honest.
But like I said, it's the momentum is now. And is it a case of going for it? And going for it means spending on players. Obviously, a new striker has got to be the priority.
Yeah, I think they will go for it. I don't see us, touch wood, I don't see us dropping that many points between now and January. I just don't see it. And then if we did drop a shitload of points, what are they going to do? Okay, now the wheels are coming off here. We need to spend money to get back on track. Fair enough. Or they go, we're trundling along nicely, and what more do we need to push us over the line? Fair enough. So either way, the purse strings are going to be open. To what varying figures will depend on what I've just said, how it's going to go. But like I said, I think we're a difficult team to beat. So I think they will go for it. Why wouldn't you? If you own this thing that's doing so well, and you can get the riches of the championship and the exposure of being one step away from the supposed promised land of world football, then you take it. So, do we need a new striker? Yes, we do, and that's not disparaging to the players we've got. And I feel a little bit sorry for Mo Fowl, but then, you know, it's the same with Jack Marriott. He came in at an odd time, and then he's had a full pre-season, hit the ground running, and then obviously had a bit of bad luck. And I think
it took a while, but it was starting to happen, wasn't it? Sorry, it was starting to happen.
Of course it was, and like, you know, he looked lively, he looked sharp, he looked dangerous. He wasn't afraid to shoot, even when maybe the shot wasn't on. He got away with a couple of deflections that went in. Great, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. And we miss him. You know, if you'd have said at the start of the season, we'd be missing Marriott, and Mullins not quite there yet, and we've got a £500,000 striker.
He's way off, isn't he?
I wouldn't say he's way off. I just think I think he's probably putting too much pressure on himself now, because he's always been this talismanic figure, this player who would score goals off his arse cheeks with his eyes shut. We're used to him almost doing the impossible, and I think I'm genuinely not bothered if he doesn't score between now and January. Right, I'm genuinely not bothered, because I still think he'll get double figures. You just, you know, as the saying goes, is it, you know, classes, form is temporary, classes forever. It just is. It sounds cheesy, but a man who scores over 100 goals for Wrexham suddenly doesn't become bad because he's snatching at chances or it's not quite going for him. He scored after, I believe, 16 seconds at Rotherham. People are forgetting that so soon. And the reason people are forgetting about these things so soon is because of the position we're in. There's like an element of desperation, as there was on Tuesday. Like, shit, how are we going to get the goal here? Where's it coming from? How are we going to get over the line? We got over the line with an own goal. So, and I was watching Wickham earlier on, that Kone. I'd love to.
Yeah, don't talk to me about them. Yeah. Where have they come from? This is winding me up. This. What I saw on the first day, which 3-2 flattered them. I thought we were by far the better team. Where have they bloody come from? Because I'm struggling. I need answers, Tim. I need answers.
They're no mugs. You know, people forget that they were in the Championship for quite a while. They were in the Championship for quite a while. There's still an element of a Gareth Ainsworth style team about them. That's why, annoyingly, I think Shrewsbury might stay up if they can grow a backbone. And they're well managed. They're well drilled. They've got some flair players, and they're patient. You know, it wasn't all going their way today at Wealdstone, but they just picked their moments and they just kept plugging away. And that's what you need. It's what Wrexham do to a certain point. They stay in the game. They go, oh, fucking hell, we're under the cosh here, but it doesn't matter because we'll stay in the game and we might nick one later on. And that's what we've got. And sides like that are always going to be in and amongst it. You can blow teams away, but you can't do that week in, week out. You have to adapt. And you have to overcome different challenges, which is what we've done, really. Wycombe with no mugs. And it's, it's just quite weird, isn't it? The team that always starts at the bottom at the start of the season with the W's, with nothing on the board, and now leading away. So happy days.
But is it frustrating to see? And I think they've played a game less as well, I believe. So, is it frustrating to see?
It's frustrating when you hear they score a 92nd minute winner like they did last week. We could have gone 2 points off top.
Teams at the top always do that, and I think we've had our moments in where we were doing well the last few years.
Yeah, of course, and that's the beauty of jousting it out. I think that whole thing with Notts County has made us appreciate how crazy it can go toe to toe. I mean, nothing will ever be replicated like that in that division ever again.
No. But I think it's thrilling.
It was mad, but I mean, there's an element of that creates an anxiety that people probably didn't realise they had. Because you think, fucking hell, we've got to win. Like at Halifax that season when we lost, we're like, it's all gone wrong. It's like all of a sudden that Notts County game is a 6-pointer. If we don't win, we're not going up. We're never going to go up. So I think there's still that slight element of sort of anxiety-ridden desperation to want to have to win every game, but we don't have to win every game. We don't, and we won't. And that's the beauty of it. You can lose 7 to 10 games in this division and still be in the mix. But I don't see us losing 10 games. I don't. How many have we lost so far? 3?
3, yeah.
I don't. So let's say that carries on for the rest of the season. All right, you might be close to 9 or 10, but I don't know. I just genuinely think we've pissed off enough people in this division already to go, all right, they're not a bad team. None of their fans will ever admit to it. All their fans will say, well, we deserve something from that game. Didn't score though, did you? So how much did you deserve it? So there's not many fan bases that want to say good things about Wrexham because it has to be through gritted teeth. It has to follow.
Well, the last 2 games have been very different. I think an early goal helped. 2 home games, very different performances. I said the early goal, but on Tuesday when the football was quicker, it's always a cliche: play faster football, be aggressive. That's where the goal came from. Whereas moved out to the wing very quickly, very fast, aggressive football, a brilliant ball into the box, and you get what you deserve when you play football like that. Because they were very organized, difficult to break down.
Yeah, and everybody, if we'd have walked away from that game with a 0-0, everybody would have gone, fucking hell, I don't even know if we deserved a 0-0. So you take it. So 3 is a massive bonus. And if we can get 9 from 9 against Barnsley, oh Jesus, I'm telling you, it's you earn your luck, and patience is key in this division, and that I think it might sound a little bit ironic from what I've said, but I think that patience is spread to the fans, larger elements of the fan base, where they go, all right, don't panic. It's not like 10, 12 years ago, if we were 1 or 2 goes down, it's probably going to end 5 or 6 because it just weren't good enough.
It's a much stronger team now by far. Yeah. But I think the expectations now, I think the relief of being promoted from the National League, being back in the Football League, looking stable. Yes, promotion would be lovely again. Get to the Championship. That'd be, just a dream to be, but there's less pressure now, I think. You talk about the Wigan game where we had to get promoted that season. The investment, the exposure, it was now or never to get out that down league. It's so difficult to escape from. That was the last chance, I think. Otherwise, there's going to be problems with managers, with players, with investment.
Oh, 100%. And I think the gloves are off. We can play with a certain element of freedom and less pressure than what we were under before. I think that's the good thing. That's the good thing about this management team and the backroom staff is that they will keep this team grounded and say, look, Don't get bully big bollocks. We'll send you out somewhere. We don't want you here if you're going to be a knob. Just play the game. Play the game like this is the reason why you wanted to be a footballer, is because you love the game. So love the game first and enjoy the trappings that come with it. Because it's important. If you've earned it, enjoy the trappings. But love the game first and foremost. And you can see that in a lot of these players. They love playing football. You know, it isn't a chore. They love coming into work every day. Of course, results and the ownership and everything like that helps. But I think that they just enjoy being in this dressing room, and the creation of that comes down to the management team. That's a difficult thing to do, and I've said over and over again, that working ethos that they've got and that kind of band of brothers kind of feeling they have is probably worth 6 to 9 points before they even set foot on the pitch. Really do, and it's something special. And I was thinking earlier on when I saw the results, I think Plymouth got lost again. You're looking at Wayne Rooney, you're looking at Frank Lampard in at Coventry.
How do they get these jobs? How do they get them?
Hey, you know what? I don't care how they get them. Give them to Frank, give them to Wayne. As long as you keep your hands off Parky, I'm happy. Because I was thinking, why is a club from a higher level not gone, maybe we should go for him? Is it because he's unfancied? Because if you look at his stats, you look at the points he's accrued, you look at his win ratio. Yes, he's been given the tools to do it. And yes, it's been at a lower level. But this is a man with 5 promotions on his CV now. I mean, clearly not as good as a player as the Rooneys and the Frank Lampards of the world. But you know what? It always blows my mind, and you never want to tempt fate. But I thought, well, you know, is there a team in the Championship that would go, maybe we should go for him? Have they got the money to prize him away? Because Phil Parkinson's on a rolling contract, lest we forget. He's on a 12-month rolling contract, which has always been there. Which means if somebody wanted to have him tomorrow, they could have him if he wanted to go. You know, that's mad. I find that mad that we're pinning down all these players we've got. And it's weird though, because as soon as you go, we'll offer Phil Parkinson a 3-year deal, it all goes tits up, because that happens. You see it everywhere with other managers. They get handed a bumper deal, and it's like, oh, we shouldn't have given him that. So it works. Again, it comes back to your question about why the ownership works. It just works, and it works because of trust. There's an element of trust. They said to Phil, you've had a shit time at Sunderland, but it doesn't matter about that. Look at your CV. Yes, that might have happened a while ago, but you know something. So come in, steady the ship, get the players you want, and build. They've trusted him to do that, and he's done it. And I love that fact, and I love the fact that nobody's come circling and said, well, can we prize him away? So yeah, take your Rooneys, take your Franks, and whoever else is going to be, and leave our man well alone.
Do you think people are watching? But he was the perfect manager for a non-league club with ambition, I think, because he's, like I said, still a big name, lots of achievements, who was dropping down himself. But I said it was the perfect fit. And I've always liked his attitude, his demeanour, the way he conducts himself. He's just been perfect for this time. Yeah. And I think a different manager would have been a different story. And I know he's had stick for his style of play, but it's been very, very efficient, I think, over now the seasons. What they've done, again, to be second in League One, it's been the top 2, the last 3 seasons now? Could be 3 or 4 seasons it'll be, wouldn't it? So the consistency is unrivaled.
Well, when he was announced as Dean Keats' successor, essentially, I was like that. I wasn't blown away. I was just like, in my head, I was like, really? And I thought, can we do better? But I thought, give your head a wobble. This is a man that has a pedigree. But I think we expect managers to come to us that have got an immediate pedigree. It's not going to happen. This is a team that's been treading water for 15 years in the National League. No way out. They've had decent people there before, and they've not managed it. So you're always taking a risk. It was essentially a poison chalice of a football club, wasn't it? It was a bit of a basket case to a certain point. So it was a risk for everybody. And then the longer it went on, I think, again, I used the trust word. He was like okay with the documentary. He was okay with allowing his players to express themselves in certain ways. And it literally has been the perfect storm. It's a match made in heaven. And I'll die on this hill right now. For me, he has to be Probably best manager in Wrexham Football Club history for me in my lifetime. Only in my lifetime, because I don't remember the much earlier days. And that's not disrespectful to Andy Morrell or Dennis Smith or Brian Flynn.
I think you're looking at Smith next. Smith and Flynn really, can compete with him.
Of course, and there's longevity, especially with Flynn. He was there for a lot longer. But I just think for what Phil Parkinson has achieved in a relatively short space of time, with the scrutiny that's been on him, I think sometimes that gets forgotten. I think it gets forgotten. He could have folded under all this pressure, but outside pressure, not inside pressure, not pressure from the owners, outside pressure. Lesser managers would have crumbled in the face of that, and he's realistic enough to go. You know what? I'm pretty sure I'm going to win more than I lose. How many times has Wrexham Football Club let us down under Phil Parkinson's watch? And by that, I mean when they've been absolutely atrocious and didn't look like they wanted to play for that shirt. I can't think of that many occasions. Harrogate the other week in the FA Cup was poor. They tried, but they weren't good enough. And sometimes you hold your hands up and go, you weren't good enough. That's fine. But it's not through a lack of effort. It was just a lack of endeavour and maybe a little bit. We just weren't really on it, and we deserved what we got. So, but it doesn't happen. It's a rarity in the parking. That's the beauty of it. And I think people get on his case when we lose a match, or it doesn't quite go away, or we ship 3 goals, or he makes substitutes later than the 60-minute mark. People are just looking for things to beat him with. I think, just look of what he's achieved with us. Give him credit. I genuinely think there'll be certain fans who will not give him the credit he's deserving of until years and years and years down the track, when he is long past his association with Wrexham Football Club. But they will guarantee you, those people who have got who have given him pelters will be the first to put their hand in their pocket and buy him a pint if he was to ever come back here in future.
Yeah, well, how much time has he bought himself, do you think, in terms of what would have to go wrong? I know it's a fickle business and you're only as good as your last season, if you like, but surely he's bought himself some time. But he doesn't want to tarnish his legacy without being negative. There's no reason to be negative at the moment, but has he bought himself a considerable amount of time to try and rebuild on setbacks should they happen?
Yeah, I think if we were to go up to the Championship, he in my head he gets a full crack at that. He gets a full season at that, unless we were rock bottom by Christmas with like 2 wins out of whatever how many games it is, and there's like the goals column is shit and the performances are shit. You gotta go, how many more weeks do we give for this to be turned around? But he's not daft. Him himself will go, I've taken it as far as I can.
That might happen soon enough, you think. He's been, 4 seasons now? He might decide 5, 6, even if it's going well, I'm going to get out now. Because it has been a big, big journey. But if he gets to the Championship, he's safe. I mean, he can get relegated straight away. He's guaranteed for me another season.
How good would it be, right? How good would it be if he just did a Jurgen Klopp and gone, look, I've secured your legacy. I've done what I came here to do, and then some. I'm very well regarded by 99% of the fan base. I can go away with my head held high. Thanks a lot. See you later. Everybody would be fucking out. You get bloody applause. You'd line the streets for him. Because
it's possible.
It is possible. I'd love that. I'd love that if he said, look, because he's not old yet, but I mean, if he said this is what I want to do, and maybe I want a new challenge, it's time for somebody else to come in with fresh ideas. Even if the worst was to happen, if we went up, right, and it was a shit first 3 or 4 months, and he has that conversation with the owners, go, look, it's not really quite working for me. Maybe you need fresh blood with new ideas, maybe a European coach, and I'm quite happy to help with that recruitment. I'm quite happy to pass the baton over when the time comes. Imagine having, and that was probably the same with Klopp. He probably had I can't think he did, didn't he, with Slot? He said, he's the guy that you really should be looking at to succeed me. So to have him involved in that sort of process to appoint his successor would be amazing. It would be amazing, but we're way off that, yeah, obviously. But
Of course, yeah.
It would be it's a very interesting conversation for another day for sure.
But as I said, if he gets to the Championship, I think he's secure. He's got a lot of time. I think he'd have to. I mean, he'll survive a relegation and get the opportunity to, to manage in League One again. I think you could not turn against him on a relegation from the Championship. I think he's safe then. If he's promotion to the Championship, would be everything. I think
we all say that, don't we? But I think managers and time don't go in the same sentence, and that's just the nature of the beast.
I said when you're losing, when you relegated, it hurts, doesn't it? And you react sometimes on your emotions, and you react in the present. What happened before is relevant now.
Exactly. So we'll see.
What I want to talk about was this new investment. Now, that kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. Were you aware it was happening before it was made public? Were they looking for the investment, or was it kind of just happened, by chance, if you like, the perfect relationship, the perfect combination again?
I mean, I don't think many of us knew who it was, even though Eric himself had followed various accounts, including ours, on the slide. Oh shit, he's been spying from afar. I don't think it's been a massive surprise because we all kind of know that there needs to be additional investment if the club wants to go where it wants to go, and it can't just be about the millions from Rob and the millions from Ryan, because as much as they're very wealthy, when you own a football club, there's always a bit of a burst dam at times, where it's just going to be hemorrhaging money. So you need to seek that outside investment and those people that are interested, genuinely interested. So, the Allen family seem lovely people. They legitimately built these solid business empires. Philanthropists. I can't even say it. Yeah. Philanthropists. There we are. And they seem like good folk. They've been over several times. I think that the original share price was something like 11 million or something it went in, wasn't it? We're saying it casually, like it's just like you just found it down the back of your sofa, where it's actually a solid amount of cash. So it doesn't massively surprise me, and I think it's probably the first of several going forward, no doubt. I think they'll be cherry picking who they want to be involved. They don't want any old Tom, Dick, and Harry where too many cooks, for want of a better phrase, and it gets a bit messy and people don't agree. Everybody has to be singing from the same song sheet. Yeah.
I always felt this would happen one day. It happened a bit quicker than I thought, because again, they couldn't sustain it themselves forever, but they've had to perhaps capitalize on the opportunity now, because where the position in the league, the exposure, it's now was the time really. But it is a bit quicker than I thought it would happen. But there's a danger with this now. As you say, it's about the right owners. We've had the right owners. For them to the Allen family, do they have any other interest in sport? Have they any investments in sports?
I can't think now off the top of my head. I can't think. I'm not sure. I kind of want to say. I'm not sure if they do. Maybe. I genuinely. I'd be spitballing if I said I knew for certain. I can't remember. I kind of feel like I took my eye off the ball a little bit, where they've done this, and it's all very like we trust these people, and you can take a deep dive into their business.
I haven't seen anything, no, but that could be a good thing. It could be a good thing because they might, they bring their own ideas to it, but they're not going to interfere too much, thinking they have all the answers. I think it might be a good thing. That inexperience can sometimes be in your favour.
It'll be a softly approach. Like they did their little press release saying, "Oh yeah, we're proud, blah blah, to be involved." Yeah. But to what involvement they will have, only time will tell. And they'll have their moments where they go, "Well, we're going to help do this. We're going to help facilitate that. We're going to drive this. We're going to help where we can." So investors are just that at this stage. How much or how little they want to be involved on a kind of face-to-face front remains to be seen. But it's exciting. It's exciting, isn't it? If it's good enough for them as a legitimate partner, if you like, to be involved with the club, and it's done in the right manner, then great. Why not? Why not? you know, it's got its ruffled feathers elsewhere. You know, I was speaking to one of the Stockport guys the other day, and he was like, who are these are the people you've got in? They're like multi-billionaires. I'm like, yeah, well, don't worry about it. It'll be all right. just yeah, we'll be all right. And then they're like, well, you're definitely going to get there faster than we are. It's like, well, you know, hair and tortoise and all that.
Go away, will they? Stockport, they're still hanging around.
Yeah, bad smell. Yeah, very bad.
But the danger is with ownerships and investors, they always eventually want a return. And it's then how do they get that return? That's how Ryan's made his money, really, isn't it? With all these business interests, building up these brands, selling on his stake for a profit. That's how he's become so wealthy. And that was perhaps always going to be the case with Wrexham. But I'm sure they do everything they can to find the right business partners, the right people to bring on board. That goes without saying. But there's always a risk now. We've gone from two people that we know are passionate about the club, care about what they're doing. It's now it goes to another level where, like I said, people who invest money want to return. And how do they get that in the future? Who do they sell to? Who do they bring on board? Eventually, bad apples enter the scene.
Well, I like to think we've had that many bad apples in the past that we're not going to reappear. We've had fucking a bereft bad apple tree. Do you know what I mean? There's been so bloody many. So look, ultimately, the reputational damage to them is immense, despite all their own business interests, but despite the empires they've made. So they're going to continue to want to get more right than wrong. You know, so they've sort of made various changes to the backroom staff. They've got these investors on board. They've bought into Wrexham Lager. You know, they're making all the right moves, it would seem, on the surface of things. You know, so what's next?
Investing in Wrexham through this new company, isn't it? With the Allen family, they're involved as well in that investment, which I think will be the first of many locally. I think that could be one of their ideas to invest in other businesses. I use Village Bakery as an example. I know that they've been sold now, I believe, but local businesses like that, maybe Networld Sport, that have been founded in Wrexham, will then get investment from Red Dragon Ventures. I believe it's the first of many, Wrexham Lager. It's the obvious one to begin with, but it'll be the first of many. And that is really solidifying their commitment to the town and creating a legacy here.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, when Wrexham Lager was reintroduced to the world and came back from nowhere, we all thought, well, it's great to have it again. It's great to be in the local pubs. It might extend beyond Shrewsbury. Great. Start small, aim high. And now it's been sold in America. So
I see 29 states apparently at the moment. Yeah,
massive. And they're already looking at different sites, different factory site closer to the original site. You know, so it's all exciting. It's all exciting, you know, and it'll be very interesting. I love it when people say, "Oh, well, they're going to get bored soon." Well, they just bought into another business, so not yet. They're not yet.
The commitment's there. They've delivered on their promises, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which not many do. But as I said, the only thing that counts is the results. And as I said, without the results, where does it end up? You know, obviously that's
he'll end up with Wayne Rooney appointed in a 7-year deal. That's where it'll end up.
DL. But yeah, like I said, it's all worked out from the beginning. I mean, like I said, I don't know how they managed to get it to hit the ground running. The signings they've made, not many Duff signings. Not many Duff signings. Everyone has really worked out. It might take a bit long, some better than others. I mean, Ollie Palmer is still ticking along. Does he score enough? His effort is unbelievable. I think he's so important because of his size, but is he scoring enough goals? But still important to the team.
Yeah, he's like a reliable second-hand car now, isn't he? It's like, oh yeah, I know my flash Porsche won't get me to work today. However, I'll jump in the trusty Nissan, get me from A to B and then back home. Just reliable. Exactly. Yeah, he's a striker, so he should be scoring a lot more goals. But is being a striker just all about goals? I don't know. I mean, you kind of want the hold at play. But what we're missing is a fast striker. If we can get a fast striker running off those bring downs from Ollie out of the sky. Yeah. When was the last time we had a really, really frightening fast striker? Really, because I'm struggling to think. Struggling to think of a fast striker.
Yeah. But is there a place back for Dolby, do you think? Are we going to outgrow him now? Because this striker issue, I think, is a problem.
Yeah, no, I don't think Sam Darby's coming back here. I mean, I know everybody's saying he's. I mean, it's a weird thing. I think their manager said we'd love to kind of extend his stay here. He's out of contract in the summer. We don't know what his plans are at Wrexham. Blah blah blah. And he's done relatively well in the Scottish Premier. You know, I think he's got 5 and 6 or 5 and 7 after today's game. But he had one of the best chances with Dundee today, and he skied it over the bar. So you just never know what Sam Darby you're going to get. I guess I don't think he's coming back to Wrexham. I don't think that's worked out for him. It's just kind of strange. He's gone from one end of the country to the other. He's gone from bloody bottom end of England to the top end of Scotland, from Southend to Dundee. So, but sometimes it works for players, and if he wants to uproot and go then and make a good fist of it, and good luck to him. He deserves it. He's a hardworking lad. He's honest. He's an honest player. And unfortunately, because of the trajectory we've been on, you can't afford to carry. Passengers is the wrong word, but you can't afford to be sentimental about stuff, you know. And it's the same with Mullin to a point. You can't afford to be sentimental about it. If he has a rest of the season where he doesn't score anything, then you kind of hold your hand up and go, maybe he has hit his ceiling. But I don't see that happening. So,
a lot of people I talk to think that's the case. His body is not quite working, to say the least, and he was well off it when he came on. I felt on Tuesday there was a moment when he tried to burst through, if I remember rightly, or he played the wrong pass. There was a moment where he just wasn't himself, and you expected more from him. But like I said, what we've had out of him has been brilliant.
Yeah, and then
some. Another one.
Yeah, and you know that's probably, I think we've said it a few times on our pod. That's probably the part of the field where Parky's probably let himself down on the recruitment side of things. Initially, obviously, Mullin great, and he clearly identified Palmer. Said that in the documentary. If we get this guy, we'll go up. And then, but in and around that, probably just hasn't quite clicked with the other strikers we've had for one reason or another. So yeah, I think without saying we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket, barring any disastrous injuries elsewhere, that is key. Going out there with a striker and not just keeping it to UK. If there's somebody abroad who's knocking in goals for fun in, I don't know, Portuguese. I was thinking about this today. Here's one for you. Would you take McAuley Langstaff? Doing nothing at Millwall? No. Why?
I've never been impressed with him whenever I've seen him. But he somehow scored goals. But
and this
I've never seen him.
We talk about we talk about ceilings, don't we? People are saying this might be Mullin's ceiling, League One. Langstaff's gone to Millwall. He's on the subs bench 9 times out of 10 from what I can see. So he always makes you wonder. You know, he's at that sort of prime age now. Could we get him cheap? You know, if we'd have said 12 months ago you're going to put a bid in for Langstaff, we all would have said yes. So it shows you that how far that we've come in 12 years. Your initial response is like, no, I mean, it's deeper than that. So, you know, it's mad that the trajectory's just gone up and up and up.
I just think what I hear about him doing and what he does when I watch him and what he does when I don't, two different things, I suppose. And I'm sort of affected by how I've seen him perform and not really players I would expect him to. I think being so used to Mullin, the contrast is unbelievable in how they play. So maybe that's probably what's impacted my decision. I've never really been a fan of him when I've seen him play. Before I let you go, we said half an hour, didn't we? We blagged our way through an hour, I think. I don't know. But
you can now jazz it up as a bumper first episode, can't you?
Yeah, but all the work done by you, I have to admit. Is there enough coming through? Is there enough local talent coming through, do you think? Are we creating enough? Are we finding enough?
Maybe, because I think the under-18s absolutely thumped somebody again today. I'm sure it was 5-2. So that, you know, you've got good people there, the sort of Dave Jones of the world and Chadwick and all that are there overseeing this development path. And it's a difficult one to gauge because we've seen Max come through the age grades. He's had, he's done really well. We've all seen the way he's blossomed.
Yeah, probably the best player season.
Yeah, well, up there. Barnett's slightly different, isn't he? But we still plucked him from Solihull, and look how he's progressed. So, is there a pathway for localer people? Yes, and I think that the carrot is very much there for them to go out and grab it, because they'll say, "Fucking hell, I'm in there." If I'm one of their players and thinking, right, we've gone on this trajectory, but the likes of Max is the obvious one, I suppose, where you can go, if I really work hard and I'm open to loan moves here, then everywhere, can show I can develop, then I can maybe get into this side. But then you've got play. It doesn't work for everybody. Like Bickerstaff's out on loan. We've not heard nothing on Bickerstaff, and kind of
so much was promised about him. He had a good reputation, didn't he?
Yeah, but again, I think if we were still in the National League, we'd probably be starting him and Dolby, because we didn't have the embarrassment of riches, in inverted commas, that we've got now. So it was kind of like almost like a needs must scenario then, where you're kind of like the Dior Anguses of this world, and now we've just moved on massively in a short space of time. But I think there are avenues there. It's not going to be easy because of where we're going to. At what point does an 18-year-old say, I'm going to get into that Championship side? Somebody with bravery, who's got belief in themselves, and you will get a few. You'll get a few rough diamonds that just need a little bit of polishing. I say, look, we want you to go out on loan. Like, we've got McNicholas on loan at Rochdale, and I know he's been injured recently, but he was keeping clean sheets for fun. I think of our goalkeeping stable's really good. Is he going to be one that's going to be breaking through in the first team anytime soon? Nope. Is he a saleable asset? Yes.
Go back. How long's he got?
Who?
Compo. How long's he got? So he's back.
I think. Well, they said 6 weeks, and that was 2 weeks ago. So they're looking about a month. He doesn't need. It doesn't need surgery, so they're just managing it conservatively, I suppose is the word. And it'll all just be down to impact then. Like, they'll be leathering the ball at him. They'll see how his wrist holds up. So he'll just be doing loads of physio and rehab work probably. But I think Callum Burton's great. I think there's elements of Callum Burton's game that's probably. I was going to say that, yes. There's elements of Arthur's games that's better than Callum Burton's, and vice versa. And I said this the other day when we did the newsletter. I think Callum Burton's concentration levels are better from what I'm seeing, because he had nothing to do against Exeter, and he had to make 2 saves in 2 minutes and then punch the ball to the halfway line. Switched on. I think he's a great player.
Yeah. I think we've always done well with goalkeepers the last few years. I think some of the keepers we've had have been pretty decent.
We've had a lot. I was trying to think when was the last time we had 2 goalkeepers of almost like an equivalent standard, and I couldn't think of many.
You always lost it, didn't he? I think he was hard done by at times. I think.
He was hard done by, but I think probably in hindsight he'll look back and go, he probably may well admit he maybe didn't have the mental strength for it, if I'm honest. And that sounds uber critical, but I remember the goal he let in Notts County. It was a disaster, and that was just like the start of a horrible period of time for him, where he was just making some horrible errors. You could see it. You could see it in his face, thinking, "Fucking hell, you don't want to have a go at him." It's hard not to have a go at a goalkeeper when we're doing not great, and he's just let a ball slip through his legs or whatever. Because you can see the effect it's having on him. You can see he's not gonna sleep tonight. This lad, and you felt sorry for him. Really did. And he said that. I think he's been on podcast and said that he had a rough time with it. But you have to have that mental strength. You have to. I think we're in a place where we've, and Dibble did have mental strength, but I think there's different levels. You look at Arthur, he gets clobbered, gets a fractured jaw, and he's back like 3 weeks later. It's wild. But then we've got a completely different injury and sports scientist and rehab stuff than we've ever had. So the treatment and that's now afforded to these players is far, far more impressive than it ever was during the days of Dibble and long before him. So, yeah.
Well, that's what's been so important, that the investment in the infrastructure, which was, again, a key goal of theirs.
Oh, yeah, massive. I mean, they had like cryogenic tanks, didn't they, outside the ground not so long ago? They would just go having like ice baths and I thought they were going to turn into like Demolition Man, just have a big block of ice, or Thor Max out in 30 years' time and play him again. Just mad. But that's what they got Kev Mulholland and all these people in, that they want to have. They want to get the fine margins, and if you get ahead on the fine margins, it gives you that extra 10% and that extra, anything extra that can gain you the smallest advantage over your opponent. And if that means, oh, fucking hell, Mullins out for X, Y, and Z games, and they soon got him back, and it's not about rushing players back, it's about getting people back as soon as they can, where they're scientifically ready to be able to play games. And we're very fortunate in the sense that we've got that. I think Fletcher's going to be in contention next week, and I wouldn't surprise to see him come in, because we've not exactly set the world on fire with goals from strikers. We've got to get goals from elsewhere, but nothing from the strikers. So, not that I'm saying that he's the solution, but he probably does get a shout from the bench, but at whose expense?
Okay, thanks, Tim. Before you go, who's the team to beat? Is it still Birmingham? Are they going to come strong? They've got a few games in hand. Will they eventually overpower the rest and do what we expect them to do? Wycombe, are they going to stay up there?
Yeah, I think Birmingham. They've had. I looked at the goals Birmingham's conceded at Shrewsbury. It's so embarrassing, like bad, awful. So you're thinking, if they have more moments like that, they'll struggle. But you don't see them having moments like that. It'd be interesting. They'll chuck money at it in January. They've got a big squad. They've got a strong squad. So you'd expect them to be cash in the games in hand that they've got, win those games in hand, and set the pace again. But that's what makes it interesting. We have to make sure that us and Wycombe make sure that Birmingham don't think they can have it all their own way, which we're already proving. So if we can keep making that interesting, then great. So I think that those are the obvious ones. Dark horse wise, I don't know dark horses. I think Lincoln maybe, in terms of being in and around it, just because of the way they managed, and they've got a reasonably strong squad. I think we've got this weird feeling that maybe sort of Huddersfield or something will make a late dart for like a, at least a strong finish to the season. I don't know. It's nice to be able to concentrate on ourselves and go, that's all we need to do. We're more than a match for anybody in this division now. We've proven that. We've proven it. So bring it on, innit? We've got Birmingham in January. How good's that going to be, by the way, on a Thursday night?
And where are we going to finish? Is it top 4?
Yeah. It's annoying, isn't it? I want to say top 2 because you want automatic again. But I think I think playoffs. I think playoffs. And you can just see the story being written, can't you? Oh, they've got to playoffs. Poor Wrexham, they've had a rubbish time at Wembley in recent years, blah, blah, blah. But can you imagine if we got to Wembley, if we got to the playoff final at Wembley this year, how many Wrexham fans would go there?
Yeah.
How many would be there? I genuinely think now, there would be 50,000 Wrexham fans there.
Really? That many?
I just think because they would, the owners and everybody else and Wembley, the FA will look at that and go, fucking hell, we need to market this, because there's a lot of people in the UK that haven't had a chance to watch Wrexham in the flesh, but this is the best chance that they will have had. And you're going to get Americans flying straight from wherever they are, direct to London, on the train to Wembley. I reckon we wouldn't be far off 50k if we really wanted it, which is mental. So I think that it could be written, and I think the long-winded answer to your question is we'll finish 5th.
Ooh, still very impressive, I think. We talked about this at the beginning. we want back-to-back promotions, back treble promotions. We want to get the championship, but this is still phenomenal. This is still a really, really good season, regardless of what happens.
And we need to. We're due a win. We're due a win in a playoff final, aren't we?
Of course,
we're
yeah.
just due.
So
we're just due.
This could be it, but we'll definitely make the playoffs.
It will be it. I guarantee it. Mo Fowler scored the win in the 80th minute. With every penny.
Before I go, one last question: who's been the best player so far
for Wrexham? I think for me, probably Barnett, probably Ryan Barnett. He's probably, obviously Max was out injured for a bit. If Max had carried on with those games he wasn't injured in, he's probably close to it as well. But I think Barney's been unbelievable, just in terms of what he gives you, excitement, always wanting the ball. You see some players that shy away from it, not necessarily our team, but you see some players that don't want the ball. He always wants the ball. He always wants to do something with it. He always wants to try something different. If he thinks a player's got the better of him, well, I'll cut inside and get me shot off. So it's just exciting, just kind of like a throwback to kind of the Carlos Edwards era where the socks are low, he's got a low centre of gravity, I'm going to hit the byline, I'm going to whack a cross in, and if you miss it...
I'm in the Mold Road stand, and he's there, he's on when he's shooting towards the cop, he's against that touchline, very, very, very exciting player. And that goal against the Forest Green, was it?
Yeah, the volley.
Last season, I was right behind that. Lovely, absolutely breathtaking. But he's a star player, I think, at the moment. Will he get found out? Will he be? He's obviously the one to watch for the opposition, and he might get a lot of.
He's had moments. Stockport did a number on him. They doubled up, and we didn't really respond to the other gaps. We didn't exploit the other gaps. Whether two men were picking him up, I'll exploit the gap that the man's left behind. So, but I think 9 times out of 10, you're always going to get a solid 7 or 8 out of 10 display from him, because he could have one moment. You have one moment in a game, you give the ball to him, he will whack that ball into the box. You know where it's going. It ain't going for a corner unless you're very lucky. It's going into the box. It's going into the mixer. We've got some big men in there now. So he's been great. He's been a joy to watch. And it helps that he's just a very, very nice lad. Keeps himself to himself, doesn't get big-headed. He's just like, oh, yeah, this is pretty cool. And he's just signed a new deal. Happy days.
I was going to say that's what we needed. It adds value to the club and its security. And I think you've got to start doing that with your best players. Golf football, you have to sell them because an offer comes in that's too good to turn down. You can benefit from the revenue, but also you've got a player who's staying with a club who's one of your best players.
Exactly. How much is he worth now? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So, open your check.
Thank you, Tim.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Yes, I really do appreciate it, and we'll do it again sometime. Cheers, Tim. I'll see you again, yeah?
Yeah, mate. Take care. All the best. Good luck with it all.